The figures published by the Ghana Statistical Service show that the second largest contributor to the economy, which is industry, recorded a 3.6% contraction in the pandemic year. Now, that's a sharp nosedive from the 6.4% growth recorded the previous year and the worst performance ever since the GDP figures were rebased in 2014. While both the agri and services sectors were able to post growth in 2020, the industrial base of the economy couldn't withstand the storm, hence experiencing its poorest performance in 6 years. Economist Professor Peter Quarter joins us with some analysis on this disturbing development. We're so grateful that you joined us, Professor. On the back of the 3.6 contraction that the industry experienced during the pandemic year, what can be done in revamping industry and its performance?
Well, good afternoon to your discerning viewers. Industry of the private sector thrives on an enabling environment. The cost of doing business should be considerably low to enable industry to flourish. So to pull this sector, I think when the other sectors are growing, because of forward and backward linkages, certainly they will pull industry along. And we've seen industry rebounding. If you look at the manufacturing sector, there was a negative growth and now it's picking up. It is mining and firing where we have a big problem, especially oil and gas, because global demand for oil hasn't increased significantly. It went down significantly, but hasn't picked up considerably. So prices of oil hasn't picked up significantly as expected. So that's one area where we ought to look at. But then, as I mentioned, once we diversify our economy, we have other sectors growing. Certainly, it will pull industry up. We can also talk about government infrastructure, also construction. When government is not able to spend in terms of roads and other infrastructure for development financing, that is where we find the construction sector also going down. And I believe, as is being said, that 2021 is also a year of roads. We'll see more happening within the sector, with government finding the money to invest in infrastructure. So we see industry picking up. So this for me are the critical areas. And of course, there has to be demand. We need to stimulate demand, aggregate demand. If people have incomes in their pockets, that's when they will spend and economic activity will increase. And when that happens, industry will certainly pick up. So in my view, cost of doing business is critical. Having a stable supply of utilities as well as affordable prices will stimulate industrial activity, as well as government itself being able to invest or spend on these development activities.
Great, but even as you suggest these instruments, in terms of job creation, what should be the policy direction to help industry create more jobs and, of course, ensure that it becomes an inclusive growth? Because recently we have on our plate the Fix the Country campaign. It all boils down to the trickle-down effects of a boisterous economy. How do you balance the issue regarding job creation and industry growth?
Yes, job creation is very critical. I mean, there are a lot of youth that are unemployed, and COVID has made it worse. We've seen the Fix the Country group, advocates and the rest. We are not in this alone. I think for me, in as much as we are all feeling the pinch, we should also be circumspect in some of the things we expect, because we are not in this alone. The pandemic, I don't recall when we last had such a major shock to the economy. So sometimes when I hear some of these comments, yes, I sympathize with those asking for change, and government should speed up some of the things it has outlined in the budget so that people's pains or suffering will be minimized. But one area would be lower cost of doing business, interest rates. If interest rates do come down, certainly investors would be able to borrow at reasonable cost and be able to invest and stimulate jobs. Same with exchange rate. So far, we've experienced stable exchange rate, but if exchange rate starts depreciating rapidly, then we would have challenges with industry, because businesses plan to import raw material and many other things. So we need a stable exchange rate. As I mentioned, to stimulate jobs, it's not just industry. There should be growth in the other sectors. Once they grow and pull out the industry along, we are likely to see more jobs and of course, incomes. With petrol prices being increased and many other things, you find that people's real incomes or real salaries or real incomes have gone down. What do we do to cushion them so that the cost of, if there's any cost of living allowances or adjustment, that could be done. And when that is done, they have money in their pockets and that they will spend to buy goods and services manufactured by the industry and other sector players. And that will still again stimulate jobs. In some derivation, you find incentives, other incentives given to those who employ most. So there are targeted approach in terms of finding people or industry players who employ the most.
Sure.
And then some tax incentives are directed at them, some specific tax incentives. Perhaps that would be one way of dealing with the job problem. And GRA may look at some of these options available in other countries where there's a tax relief if you employ so many people in a given period. I think this are my views on job creation.
And we're so grateful that you joined us with them. Professor Peter Cortis, an economist, helping us understand the implications and prospects, even as industry contracts by some 3.6%. You're still watching The Marketplace.